Hi boys and girls, this is lesson 313, comparing decimals. In this video, you will compare decimals using greater than, less than, and equals. So the first thing you're going to do, of course on that last screen you want to make sure it's in your notebook and the date is there as well. Now, the first thing you want to do is write a number sentence using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to show which decimal is larger. Is it 95 hundredths or 3/10ths? And then explain how you know. When you're done with that, come on back. Okay, so I hope that you discovered that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths, or you could have said 3/10ths is less than 95 hundredths. Hopefully you see that you could go either of these two routes. They mean the same thing, so hopefully you get that. And maybe you said, here's one of the ways that you could show that you know. Maybe this is one of your reasons. I know that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths because the 9 in 95 hundredths is 9/10ths, which is more than the 3 in 3/10ths, which is only 3/10ths. Yeah, that would have been fine, something along those lines. It doesn't have to be my exact words, of course. Or maybe you said, I know that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths because 95 hundredths is 95 hundredths, and 3/10ths is equivalent to 30 hundredths. I know this because I can multiply the denominator of 10, that would be in this 3/10ths right here. I can do the denominator of 10 in 3/10ths by 10 to get 100. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. I'm missing your yeah, Audrey, but okay. This gives me 3 times 10, which is 30, and I know 95 hundredths is greater than 30 hundredths. Okay? So that would also be a good way. You could have drawn a number line, you could have drawn base 10 blocks. Any of those ways would be great to show that you know that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths. Alright, so let's use that reasoning with this problem. Let's say that Billy Bob Joe agrees that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths. He said it's because 95 is greater than 3. Do you agree with his reasoning? Will his strategy work for comparing any pair of decimals? If not, can you give an example in which his strategy doesn't work? So you would need to have in your notes whether you think Billy Bob Joe's strategy is a good one. Is that the reason? Do you agree with his reasoning? And then if you don't agree with him, give an example where you have proof that it will not work. Okay, when you're done with that, come on back. I hope you didn't agree with his reasoning. An example that shows the strategy doesn't always work is, and I just came up with one, you could have used a totally different one, 23 hundredths is less than 9/10ths. Even though 23 is greater than 9, 23 hundredths is not greater than 9/10ths. Therefore, looking at the numbers on the right of the decimal point and comparing them like you compare whole numbers does not work. You definitely want to have this in your notes because you don't want to make the same mistake that Billy Bob Joe made. Poor Billy Bob Joe. Okay, how about this question? A can of soup weighs about 3/10ths of a kilogram. A centimeter block weighs a little more than 95 hundredths of a gram. Which weighs more, the can of soup or the centimeter block? In the context of this number story, can you still say 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10ths? Why or why not? I'm just going to give you a little hint right here. Okay, see what you can do. Write down your thoughts in your notebook, and then when you're done with that, come on back. Okay, I hope that you said you can't still. Ooh, whoa, you cannot still say that 95 hundredths is greater than 3/10 in this context. And that's because the decimals are not referring to the same whole. The number story includes kilograms and grams. Comparisons are only valid when two decimals refer to the same whole. This would be a perfect thing to have in your notes as well. Okay? This last sentence here is always going to be the case. So then, which weighs more? About how many times more? I hope you could figure out that the can of soup, which is 3/10 of a kilogram, weighs more because 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. So that 3/10 of a kilogram is actually equal to 300 grams. The can of soup weighs about 300 times as much as the centimeter block, which was only about 95 hundredths of a gram. Okay. Remember that with decimals, as with fractions, it is really important to look at the whole when comparing. If the whole is different, the comparison will not be valid. True, true, true. For each of the next number problems that I'm going to give you, I want you to write a number sentence using less than, greater than, or equal to, to record the result of the comparison. Show proof or evidence that your number sentence is correct. Here's the first one. A box of dental floss contains 50 meters of floss. Emily used 4/10 of a meter to floss her teeth. Her brother Scotty used 56 hundredths meter to floss his teeth. Who used more floss, and how do you know? When you have that figured out, come on back. I hope that you got that Scotty used more. 56 hundredths is greater than 4/10. Here's some of the ways you could have answered that and shown your work. You could have said the 4/10 represents 4/10, while 56 hundredths represents 5/10, because we're looking at this right here, right? This first column is the tenths. So there's a 5 in the tenths versus the 4 in the tenths here. Okay? And 5/10 is more than 4/10. That's one way. Or you could have said 4/10 is equivalent to 4/10 and 40 hundredths. Comparing 40 hundredths to 56 hundredths shows that 56 hundredths is more. And you know that I got to this right here by doing this. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. Right? So that's a possibility. Or I could have done this number line, and you would have to put 4/10 on one side of the 5/10, or the half, and you'd have to put the 56 hundredths on the other side. That would show it. Or I could have even drawn these, and you can see this is much less than this. Beautiful drawing, right? Okay, here's another question for you. In the summer 2012 Olympics, American swimmer Missy Franklin won the 100-meter backstroke. The times of the top two swimmers were 58 seconds and 68 hundredths of a second, and 58 and 33 hundredths of a second. Which was the winning time? How do you know? When you think you have that answer, come on back. All right. Here we go. Well, I could say that both were 58 seconds and part of another second. That's what this is, right? The decimal means part of a second. So we only need to talk about the decimal portion because these 58s can cancel each other out. So here, 33 hundredths represents 3/10, and 68 hundredths represents 6/10. 3/10 is less than 6/10. Done. Or 33 hundredths is less than 68 hundredths. I could definitely look at it that way too. I could do this drawing, and I've got one on each side of the benchmark of a half again, or I could have drawn it out this way. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Okay, you're going to be working on this page, comparing decimals, in your math journal. So on the top one, problem 1 there, you see you're going to be coloring each grid to show the decimal. Circle the grid that shows the larger decimal. Make sure you do step 1 and step 2. Okay, it's important to do both of those things. Okay, then we've got mark and label each of the following decimals on the number line. Make sure you do all 4 of those. You need to make true number sentences here, right? True number sentences in problem number 3. Make sure you're taking care of that. And then I love number 4. Austin's teacher asked him to place decimals 9/10 and 9/100 on a number line. This is what he did. Do you agree with Austin's answer? And then explain why you think his answer is correct or incorrect. This is going to be really important. I really want you to talk to me like I'm a kindergartner. Fully explain. Here's another chance for you to really fully explain what you think about this. Okay? Do a good job on this. When you get it done, come back and check your answers. And here's what we would show. If you have any of them wrong, please make it obvious that you have it wrong, so when I come around to take a look, I'll know that I need to talk to you. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Yeah. And take a look at this and see if this is close to what you said. And we are going to talk about this in class, so be ready for that. Okay, see you tomorrow.